In today's video, we'll recap the poignant and powerful war film, All Quiet on the Western Front. This German war drama transports us back to the trenches of World War I, exploring the harrowing experiences of young German soldiers. If you want to know more about this movie, stay tuned and watch our full recap. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. The movie starts with a breathtaking deep forest scenery in the sun rising. Then, in a small space, a fox and its babies are sleeping so innocently. The year is 1917 during the World War I period. In Germany, the corpses of soldiers stuffed a snow-filled field on the Western Front, and the soldiers were running through the trenches as the intense battle was going on between the Germans and the French. A young soldier, Heinrich Gerber, is frightened about the whole situation. As everyone is getting shot or dying around him, this fear stops him from abiding by his commander's orders. Still, he has to enter the battlefield to fight against his enemies. His anxiety is hitting hard as he hides himself whenever he gets something to cover himself. Still, he gathers up his courage and stabs a French soldier in the chest. After the battle, they remove all the clothes of the dead soldiers before burying them and take the clothes to wash and sew the defects to use as new. They also took off Heinrich's uniform as he is no longer in this world. The headmaster gave vital speeches, encouraging young boys to join the First World War. Here we see our main lead, 17-year-old Paul Baumer, who is one of these young guys who are pumped up to fight for the Kaiser. So, as the pre-preparation for their enlistment in the force, they distributed the uniform, where Paul got Heinrich's uniform. As most of the young boys, along with Paul and friends, were influenced into joining this war while knowing the confirmed defeat, the Germans phrase it as the massacre of the innocents. As they start battling in the war, they first experience the attack created by gas. They have to wear masks so as not to inhale that poisonous gas, as it can kill them. After their tiring training for the war, they return to the trenches where Paul meets Kat and Chaden. As Paul and his friend, Albert, were on duty for the nighttime, Paul fired his first bullet, and this bullet got the attention of the French soldiers, so they fired back, which hit Paul's helmet, but still he got scared. Very soon, the French started to attack them, which led them to hide in their bunkers. But it isn't safe either as the bunker begins to collapse, where so many soldiers are trapped and killed. In the morning, we see Paul almost buried in dust and mud because of the artillery attack, but his friends pull them back from the wreckage. He gets up and starts collecting the dog tags from the dead soldier's neck, where he also finds the glasses of his close friend Ludwig, who wants to go back home to his mother. He also died in the artillery attack. It is the first time Paul realizes the absolute horror of the war. 18 months later, in November 1918, Matthias Erzberger, who was part of the civilian government, was chosen to negotiate with the French army commander to devise a plan for Allied power. The German force had lost an immense number of soldiers during wartime, and the country almost had no young guys left. Because of the Allied power situation, thousands of German soldiers were starving to death as there was never enough food. Paul and Kat go to a local French farm out of hunger and steal a goose. While leaving, the owner shoots at them and they don't get wounded, luckily. Returning, they cook the goose and share a happy meal with their close friends while singing a cheery song. Later, when they're passing the time gossiping, many French women pass by. Franz gets chummy with one of them and spends time together. He returns to the camp with the girl's scarf, and all the men start to smell it as they haven't gotten hold of any girl's companion for a while now. Paul and his friends go to patrol the area as some soldiers are supposed to join them, but they never come. While searching, they find them in a room where they're maybe taking a rest. The French soldiers attack them with artillery gas. As they didn't know about the terror of this gas and took off their masks soon, they ended up dying. Erzberger boards a train to talk with the French general about stopping the ceasefire and saving Germany. This country doesn't have any hope right now as they're suffering from every side. Cool-headed Erzberger wanted to settle the conditions with the French government to stop the war. However, General Friedrichs disagrees with Erzberger as he thinks the French party is trying to put biased conditions upon them. Finally, both parties met, and General Ferdinand of the French military gave the Germans 72 hours to agree on their rules, which were strictly non-negotiable. Otherwise, they'll start the ceasefire. Even though the Germans came to negotiate, there was nothing left to negotiate as they didn't have any resources, enough tanks, weapons, submarines, or anything involved with the war. So this wasn't a negotiation. They have to surrender to the French. When the officials try their best to stop this truce, the soldiers prepare for the violation from the enemies. But they attack them first, where we can see Paul going into the French trenches to kill some soldiers. The whole scene is quite intense, and the audience will feel like they're actually experiencing wartime, as bombs are dropping here and there. Soldiers are shooting non-stop. The whole land is filled with corpses, a very gruesome and brutal situation. In the French trench, when they kill all of the soldiers, Paul and other soldiers find some food on the table. As they don't get enough food to fill their tummy, they gobble whatever they see in front of them. But suddenly, they notice the ground is trembling. Something is coming towards them. They see so many tanks coming to crush them. They try to hide in the trenches as the tanks are coming very close. Some got saved, but some were smashed by this monster truck. Even the French soldiers used flamethrowers to burn people alive. The whole war event is very barbarous as they portray different ways of killing people and show what the young soldiers had to go through. Besides, the officials are still discussing what to do, but Erzberger reminds them that every moment we wait to sign the papers, the people are dying. He even asks a French official to stop the ceasefire while this discussion is going on so that nobody has to die, and they can start this after finishing their discussion. Obviously, the French don't pay any heed to them, as they want them to sign the papers quickly if they want to stop the armistice. It was the final moment of the war, and actually almost 2,700 men died in just a few hours of that day. It all happened between the time they took to discuss and sign the papers. In this battle, Paul fights with French soldiers whom he stabs repeatedly, which leads him to non-stop bleeding from his chest. He does all this out of rage towards the enemy, but his expression changes as he starts to feel sorry for the soldier. He tries to save him. Eventually, the soldier dies, and Paul says sorry to him again and again out of regret. Paul finds his diary and the picture of his wife and child in his pocket. He assures him that he'll visit them. The whole scene is quite tragic and heartbreaking. Here, Erzberger learns that Kaiser Wilhelm II has been abdicated while they are negotiating with the enemy officials. He even gets a message from Field Marshal Hindenburg where he wants him to sign to stop the massacre. But Hindenburg is one of the guys who declared that the civilian leader had deceived them and could have won the war by fighting against the French later. It is hilarious when it is confirmed that they have absolutely no chance against the French government. Still, he was trying to make this outrageous chaos. The soldiers learned about ending the war and have already started celebrating. Paul goes to meet his friend Tjaden, who has been shot in the leg. He may have to cut his leg off, but Tjaden could have survived. But he didn't, as he killed himself. He couldn't bear his condition, and he knew he would be a burden to his family after the war. With all the emotions mixed, he didn't want to live anymore and stabbed his own throat with a fork. On the 11th of November 1918, around 4 o'clock in the morning, the historic event started to happen. Erzberger makes the officials understand that they are ready to sign as the new government is coming up, as the Kaiser has been abdicated. The Germans ask them if stopping the ceasefire right now, as they are going to sign the papers, would be possible. However, in a straight cut, the French official denied this and informed them it would not happen. They even ordered another attack on the same morning. The German officials ultimately signed the paper because they had no other options to pursue them. Paul and Kat returned to the farm to steal another goose to celebrate this good news. But as the little son of the owner caught them, they ran off hurriedly. In the woods, Kat and Paul get separated, and the farmer's son shoots Kat with a gun. Paul brings him to the hospital to be treated, but he is already gone. Paul lost everyone dear to him one by one. He couldn't take this immense pain anymore. Here, a general was making some sick joke with the soldiers as he told them that the war would end soon, and that if they wanted to be welcomed to their home as heroes, they should attack the French soldiers before 11 a.m. when the war would officially end. He wanted them to show the enemies who they were. This was absurd to everyone present there. The French soldiers even started to celebrate the end of the war by drinking alcohol. But suddenly, they realized the Germans attacked them, and they fought back. The German soldiers didn't want to participate in this killing game. They were somehow alive, wishing to go back to their loved ones. But General Friedrichs forced them to attack one last time. Based on the general's mood, this battle happened without any good reason. Because of this unwanted battle, Paul even killed so many soldiers and was killed by a French soldier. Paul finds his friend, Albert, in a French soldier's uniform in the French trench. As he was shocked by the incident, one soldier shot him from behind. Moments later, Paul manages to leave the trench and dies on the ground. A very young soldier, Franz, who got help from Paul earlier, starts to collect the dog tag from the soldier's neck. He finds Paul's dead body, and he finds a handkerchief on him. Franz gets it and wraps it around his neck as a memory of this unforgettable moment. That piece of clothing gave them hope for their future. They could feel home sniffing it. Paul could also have a bright life if he didn't have to go back to the war. Even after experiencing this deadly period, he couldn't go back to make his own home. Paul could have lived if he didn't have to go back. As he struggled and saw things that he would never be able to forget, he deserved to live happily with his parents, perhaps with his beloved. But war snatched everything from his life. The movie provides some postscripts for the audience to learn some original information. The front line barely moved from the Western Front, and almost 3 million soldiers died there to gain a few hundred meters of ground. People's lives were not valued there. During the First World War, nearly 17 million people lost their precious lives. This movie shows the brutal scenes of war that people face and how it can destroy a whole country. They get no value in exchange for the sufferings they face. A war can never bring something positive out of it when the whole process is about finishing an entire population of a certain country.